Hello, beautiful people, and welcome back to M4L Academy. I'm Missy Karwowski, Director of M4LA, and I am so excited that you've joined us today. This month, we are in MAHA at school. That's right, we're focusing on food and pharma and how it impacts kids, schools, and your parental rights. And I'm sure I probably don't need to tell you how food and pharma impact your kids. You probably already have an idea of it. But we are going to really dive into it this month, which is pretty exciting. Tonight, we have our feature film. This is a little bit different than how we have done it in the past. Normally, we would not actually be streaming the entire film because we understand you guys have a busy night. We try to offer it in a little bit different package. However, tonight we had a very unique opportunity to be able to stream this new documentary, Toxic Nation. And we cannot hold on to it. You can't watch the recording afterwards. We can only have it this evening. So we wanted to be able to take advantage of that because it's such a great film, and we are so excited to be able to bring it to you tonight. So as such, we're starting off with, instead of the film itself, we're going to be doing a live stream Q&A with one of the medical experts from the film, Dr. Cate Shanahan. Very excited to have her here. Then we will jump over to Vimeo, where you are going to have to get registered in order to get your password. It is free to register. You are welcome to donate, of course, if you want to support us, but you can register at m4lacademy.org to get the password and be able to join us on Vimeo. That starts at 8 o'clock Eastern. And then we're going to have a bonus live stream with the director, Jeff Hayes. He's going to be joining us as well after the film. That's going to start at 10 p.m. Eastern. We are super excited. We have just a very unique opportunity tonight. So anyway, make sure you go head over to m4lacademy.org and register to get the password so you can join us at 8 o'clock for the actual live stream. Even if you can't stay for the whole thing, you're not going to want to miss whatever you can see. It's got such good information. Toxic Nation is such a powerful film because it doesn't just focus on one issue. MAHA really is an interplaying, overlapping series of topics. It all just connects. And this film lays out the big picture. From food and nutrition to fluoride, environmental chemicals, and other exposures, it connects the dots in ways that are both fascinating and, well, deeply concerning, frankly. Now, if you haven't had the chance to watch the film yet, I highly encourage you to do so. If you can try to join us tonight. It will be in theaters later this year, I believe, but we get to have this exclusive preview for you tonight. So it's eye-opening and you're not going to want to miss it. Tonight, we're not going to cover all the things. Here, we're going to focus more on this week's MAHA topic. This week, we're talking a little bit more about food. Of course, that directly impacts families and children. So what's on our plates and how the science and policies around nutrition have, frankly, shaped the health of a whole generation. And there's no one better to help us walk through this than Dr. Cate Shanahan, who has spent years unpacking the truth about food, fats, and metabolic health. Dr. Cate Shanahan is a board-certified family medicine physician, best-selling author, and the unapologetic mother of the no seed oil movement. With nearly 30 years of clinical experience, she's helped everyone from NBA champions to everyday families ditch processed ingredients and reclaim their health. Her research has shaped the philosophies behind Whole30, Primal Kitchen, and Bulletproof, and inspired best-selling authors across the wellness world. Whether she's on Real Time with Bill Maher or breaking down inflammation on your favorite podcast, Dr. Cate brings clarity, energy, and a dash of sass to the nutrition conversation. Her energy-first approach is changing lives and making seed oils very nervous. Please help me welcome Dr. Cate Shanahan. Well, hi there.
Thank you so much, Missy, for inviting me on. I'm really thrilled to be here with you and with Moms for Liberty.
Absolutely. I am personally thrilled to have you here. I was amazed when we reached out to you, and I've said this before, I'm going to say it again to everyone. What really introduced me to you specifically was your book, Dark Calories, as I was researching MAHA and starting to understand for this month and understand a little bit more about this topic. And I was just absolutely floored because I don't don't know that I would necessarily say that food is the most exciting topic always, unless I'm eating it. But you really do a great job of putting this topic in a very interesting, easy to process, for lack of a better word, understand way. It's exciting, it's interesting, it's fascinating. There's drama, suspense, and so anyway, I'm just thrilled that you're here, and I just had to say that.
Well, it's true. Like, I never thought that nutrition science would take over my life. And I didn't set out to be a nutritionist. I thought that it was kind of boring, but when I graduated. But boy, is there a lot more to it than what doctors and dietitians learn. And
So, how did you get into this? Did you ever expect that seed oils would be the thing that you end up talking about?
no, not at all. So I got into it because I actually was sick myself. I was a medical mystery, and nothing that any of the specialists I saw were able to even tell me what was going on. And I felt like there had to be an explanation, but I couldn't find any. That was like there was no answer within the medical system. And what happened was my husband actually had been kind of getting on my case about my diet, especially the sugar, the amount of sugar that I was eating. Like, because I literally had a quarter cup of sugar in this caramel syrup that I would have every single day in my coffee. So it was really loads of sugar. And he said, like, you eat like an army of ants. And I was like, well, so what? Like, I'm not overweight. Who cares? Right. And so that, like, I did not know more than calories, weight, there's not a lot to it. But what happened was when I got really sick, he did another thing. He dropped a book on my lap called Spontaneous Healing. And in that book, there was a phrase that alerted me to the existence of seed oils. And my life has never been the same.
Wow. Well, I am personally very thrilled that you got turned on to the topic, I guess, because it is genuinely been eye-opening. So let's start with the basics first, because as parents, we assume that the guidelines, and I think as general American citizens, we assume that the guidelines and nutrition science that has been put in front of us and our kids, it's based on the best science out there. But in the film, we hear about, and in your book, you talk about how some scientists, such as Ansel Keys, and this diet heart hypothesis, and how incredibly not the best science it is. You cover tobacco companies moving into food, and there's things like, I got to be honest, my grandma, I was raised baking cookies with Crisco, so this was a little terrifying to me that I shouldn't be doing this. So anyway, can you walk us through that history? Help us set the stage for how did it set the stage for the nutrition crisis we're in now?
So we all grew up, now, like probably everybody on this call grew up hearing that cholesterol clogs your arteries, animal fats are not as healthy as the other kinds of fats we should be eating. We should avoid, steak is a heart attack on a plate, that kind of thing. We grew up with this and believed it was true, but actually it is marketing. It is beneficial to the companies that want to sell us seed oils, plant-based oils, because if we cut out animal fats, well, that leaves olive oil and avocado oil, which if you've been watching the prices on these things, they're really expensive. So what happens is we turn to the cheaper oil options, which are the seed oils, and specifically what I call the Hateful Eight. And those are corn, canola, cottonseed, so 3 C's, and soy, sunflower, safflower, 3 S's. And we need to memorize these. And then 2 more, rice bran and grapeseed. And those oils are not like anything else in the food supply. They were actually released into the food supply without any kind of safety testing. And the way that the world got convinced that these things were healthy was because this man named Ansel Keys scared us away from animal fat with his very terrifying image. That image that we've all visualized of fat like taking up more space in our arteries and finally choking them off so the blood doesn't flow and we have a heart attack and die, right? He created that image, and it has nothing to do with what causes heart attacks. But we are so like, he was so good at just scaring people and the message that he managed to convince many doctors, even at that time, that the more logical explanation for what was causing heart attacks was the fact that people were smoking 3 and 4 packs of cigarettes a day back then. Like, people think 2 packs a day is heavy smoking now, but there were 4 pack, even 6 pack. President Eisenhower smoked up to 6 packs a day. He was commonly smoked 4 packs a day. It's a hard job being president, but cigarettes give you energy. So, so people were dropping dead from heart attacks, not because of anything that they ate at that time, but because they were chain smokers. And this man named Ancel Keys, because of how he was so convincing and connected, he managed to convince doctors not to pay attention to cigarette smoke, which was the actual killer, and to focus on this idea of animal fat being what was the problem. And it was totally made up. There was no evidence at the time. But, once you implant that image in our minds, it's kind of hard not to unsee. It's kind of hard to unsee it. Right. But it's not real. It's not the real cause. The real cause is a little more complicated, and it has to do with weakening the artery. And cigarette smoke does that. And so do seed oils. So this is the real tragedy, and the real tragic irony is that, yes, it was cigarette smoking at the time, and heart disease has, heart attacks were killing people in their 40s and 50s at much higher rates back then than they are now. So it seems like we've made progress with medicine or something. Like, our current idea must be working because the rates have gone down. But so has smoking. What's gone down, in exact parallel with the heart attack rates per capita is the smoking. Like, if you plot the lines of smoking and heart attack deaths per capita over the course of the past 20th century, you see it. There's like almost nothing at the beginning of the century. It was so rare that doctors could go their entire careers and never see a single heart attack. And then smoking kind of became much more of a thing. It peaked right around World War II because all the GIs were given cigarettes in their K rations. So they got all hooked on smoking. And when they came back, they kept on smoking. And so right around the 50s and 60s is when it peaked. And then it starts to go down. Both lines go down, the heart attack deaths and the cigarette smoking rates.
And while I agree with you, like, it's a little or misleading, right? Because heart attacks decreasing is fantastic, but we've seen a serious increase in other chronic diseases, which I believe is how you would say it for what's changing, what's happening inside our bodies, the metabolic crisis, if you will, of what has changed in our environments, in our food, and how that's changing in our body. So can you talk a little, you talk about in the movie, which people will see shortly, how our bodies can get out of sync metabolically. Can you explain what that means in simple terms? And because you mentioned the seed oils can, do these other damaging things to our body. So why is that so especially important for kids too?
So seed oils dramatically change the human metabolism. So normally humans are wired to, we'll have a meal, and then that meal will provide us with a little bit of energy, but we'll put it away in storage. And the main place that we store it is our body fat. We store extra calories as body fat. And then we don't necessarily need to eat for quite some time, because as soon as those calories are out of our bloodstream, we start burning our body fat. But with the seed oils in our food supply, at the concentration that they are today, which they constitute between 20 and 30% of the average person's total calories. So this is not a small amount. They are in everything. Once you memorize the Hateful Eight and start looking at the ingredients of what you've been buying, you're going to see them in very surprising and shocking places, things that you thought were healthy. And so that is how they have changed the composition of our body fat. And our body fat is the foundation of our metabolism. So when you do this to your metabolism, your child's metabolism, and of course, it's not your fault, it's in the food supply. What happens is that you and your child can no longer burn your body fat between meals. Why does it matter? How do you know if that's happened to you? You can actually tell that the feeling is hangry. This is why we have people who need to snack to concentrate at work, because their metabolisms are damaged by the seed oils and the other main ingredients in processed food that like are very important to know about and avoid. And those other things are the refined flours and sugars. And like those together constitute almost 70%. You take those three things, refined flours, refined sugars, and the hateful eight oils, that's almost 70% of the average person's total daily intake, leaving just 30% left for food. We are buying mostly junk food disguised and marketed as health food. And that is what is destroying our metabolisms, destroying our health, and destroying our ability to even learn. Because I want to explain what happens when you are hangry. What's going on is your blood sugar is actually dropping and your brain is not getting energy. So this isn't good for adults, right? Because we become cranky, we become moody, we can't concentrate till we get a snack. But if you're a child trapped in school behind a school desk and you already ate your breakfast, you had to get to school really early, so you probably ate at like 6 or 7, and for you, the lunch doesn't happen until 12, well, you're not going to be able to learn. It's going to be very difficult. It's going to be quite an effort because your brain is not getting energy. This is a totally dangerous state to try to, be living in and forcing our children to be in the state, which we don't even know we're doing because folks are not aware. This is not something that is known to medical science just yet. I'm hoping to change that. But what happens when your blood sugar is dropping as a child or an adult, your body releases stress hormones, adrenaline, cortisol. That changes your mood. You don't want to study. You don't want to learn. You're kind of like wired and panicking. This is a profound change and profoundly abnormal state. This is not supposed to be how our children learn. And no one is paying any attention to it except what's happened. Teachers have noticed this. Teachers have noticed. This has not gone unnoticed. And what has happened is that many schools have now required a morning snack break and often sometimes even an afternoon snack break for the same reasons. They have required that children's parents pack snacks for them so that they can function until they get more junk food at lunch. So wow. This is absolutely insane. But it's really great. It's terrible for learning, terrible for children, terrible for their self-esteem because they feel like there's something wrong with them until they get their sugary stuff, which they know, a lot of children know is not good for them. It's terrible for parents because we are, well, I'm not a parent, so I shouldn't say we, but if it's terrible for adults because if your child is like, say you're trying to go on a shopping trip, right? Say we're not talking about school for a moment, but you've experienced this probably, and many parents have experienced this. They're going shopping and it's been a while since their kids have had anything to eat. So they're starting, their blood sugars crashing and they're like going to have a temper tantrum and it's coming. So you just give them a soda or you give them a Gator or something that is going to solve this problem. And meanwhile, it's not good for them. You have your pediatrician in the back of your mind saying, oh, don't give your child juice or soda. It's just sugar. But you have this problem that you have to solve. And so we don't have any understanding. Like I'm explaining this. This is very important. We need to understand it is a metabolic problem. It's not a mystery. And it shouldn't be a mystery. It's a mystery to medical science, but it's no longer a mystery to anyone who reads Dark Calories.
Yes. Yeah. Seriously. It's that there now. I know it's funny because I feel like as an adult, maybe that sounds more of an appealing book to an adult, and that it wouldn't necessarily apply to kids. But I do want to emphasize how much it does apply to children, because if you're, we talked about this yesterday with our campus briefing with Dr. Tracy Stroup, who's a nutritional doctor. And she was saying, or debunking the myth that a calorie is a calorie, and that your body's just going to, because that's something that's been said, I think, for as long as I can remember. It's definitely something I believed pretty much until maybe 3 months ago, I would say. And not quite. I mean, I had heard these things for a while, but I just sort of, oh yeah, okay, maybe. I didn't pay too much attention. Similar to what you were saying, that, I look pretty healthy. I look pretty okay. I seem okay, so I'm sure I'm fine. It really isn't. And I think you've touched on something so important about this metabolic health for our kids, because it does impact our brains, how we think, how we feel. And I think even in the movie, right, it talks about lowering IQ. There's different, I think that was a glyphosate, right, that we were looking at. So that's not necessarily seed oils as much, but there's
a connection
that impact kids.
Yes, and so there's something that I want to say that is really, really key here, because medical science has not been paying any attention to these seed oils. They've just been given a pass because they're supposedly heart healthy, right? They have failed to examine the connection between seed oil consumption and any disease. So when we have research that shows that glyphosate consumption lowers IQ, we've not even asked the question, does seed oil consumption lower IQ?
Wow.
And
that's interesting.
Of course it would have, of course there's going to be an effect. Like, my research says absolutely yes. This is stuff that the way it works is it actually, seed oils create this state of metabolic imbalance that I talk about in the book. It's called oxidative stress. When you suffer from that, you can eat plenty of brain building fatty acids called omega-3, but they will be depleted. In other words, it changes your body so profoundly that your body cannot use important nutrients required for optimal brain health and vision. So there is a mechanism that could explain a very profound connection between seed oils in the food supply and just the problems that our children are having with learning.
Wow. And we aren't, why do you think this is so, why is this so controversial to talk about? I feel like it's ironic to me. I would never have thought in a million years that talking about the type of oil in your food would be such a practical, media bomb. Like, why is this so controversial?
Because there is so much money riding on seed oils. The farmers produce them, and the farmers actually started growing them not for food. They started growing them in the 1910s and 20s for industrial lubricant.
Ooh.
And this is part of the transformation in our thought process around these oils. We never thought of them as food until Ansel Keys and the American Heart Association started saying that animal fat was unhealthy and we should be eating liquid oils instead. And that is really important to know about, because that is taken as not just a given, but it is taken almost as you are not permitted to question it. If you do, you will be ridiculed. This has happened to me. Like, actually, what really happens to me is they like to pretend I don't exist. What they say is that, the whole seed oil trend is a trend. The seed oil avoidance is a trend. Just started from the internet. It just caught on because people wanted to become popular by saying one more thing is toxic. That is a very, very effective way of shutting down the average person's interest in the subject, right? who's going to care? It's like, oh, it's just a trend. Who cares? No, there's a scientist behind it, and that scientist is me. but they don't want to even admit. Like, well, they used to be talking about how the seed oils that are bad, that the social media trendsetters are talking about, are called the hateful eight. And I started calling out these journals, since I'm saying, no, that is my trend. That is my term. Because not all seed oils are bad, and people need to know that, right? Sesame oil, not bad. Flax oil, not bad. Peanut oil, peanuts are a seed, technically, not bad when it's virgin. No virgin oils are bad. Doesn't matter if they're from seeds or not. People need to know. They need to know these details. And in order to get these details, they need to know that there's a scientist behind that. But no longer are they using that term because I was calling them out, right? So I know they know I exist, and they are trying to snuff me out of existence.
It's this series. Honestly, I am almost speechless at how odd it seems, because you would think that something like just getting healthy, and why? Because it's essentially, you advocate for not processed foods, whole fats, healthier fats. Like, the fact that this would be considered something so controversial that they need to silence you is just, and anyone who's speaking about it, just really boggles my mind. I want to just pop in real quick and remind everyone, if you have any questions for Dr. Cate, please feel free to throw them in the chat and comments. This is a great opportunity to get a question to someone that you probably couldn't normally reach. So this is, drop them in the chat. We'll make sure that we get them on here. Okay, so I want to circle back a little bit to one area that you've talked about a little bit here, and that is like the way that the oxidative stress that's happening in the body. Can you kind of unpack that a little bit, and in maybe as down to earth terms, which you do in the book very well, to help people understand why it is that these seed oils are doing that, and how that differs from, like, I think it would be like the saturated and unsaturated and polyunsaturated or monounsaturated, all the saturated fats. What is that?
Yeah, so it's not that complicated, believe it or not. So what it has to do with is the fact that seed oils, because of the fact that they are polyunsaturated, they've got these fragile bonds, and it attracts oxygen, and it causes free radicals. Those are bad. They're like molecular radiation in your body. And our body has a way of dealing with a little bit of these bad things, these free radicals. Our bodies are infused with these things called antioxidants. And when we've been eating seed oils, unfortunately, it depletes our body's antioxidants. So free radicals can form very, very easily. And it turns out that when free radicals form too easily, we will suffer from constant inflammation, chronic inflammation. That is what drives asthma. That is what drives eczema. That is what drives all food allergies, autoimmune disease, a lot of gut pain. It drives even sunburning. So like one of the kind of randomish things that happens when you get off seed oils is you might be a person that sunburns really easily, never been able to get a tan. You will be able to get a tan. I mean, that has happened to probably 99 out of 100 people who get off seed oils. So a sunburn is actually visible signs of oxidative stress happening in your skin. And that redness is what we call an inflammatory response. So when you have this redness and it's a little swollen, or it certainly hurts, sunburns hurt, that is due to the inflammatory response, but it was triggered by these free radicals. So there's a lot of chemical terms, but they all sound like, I think they sound kind of obvious to what they are. Like free radicals, that's bad, right? You don't want radical things flying. What they are is high energy electrons that are dangerous to our little cellular machines, kind of the same way that radiation is bad for us, right? Like if we, get zapped by too many x-rays, that causes free radicals to form in our cells. So when you're looking and you're going down the aisles in the grocery store, like we should have sort of a kind of health Geiger counter, right? Like if you were to go because it literally is like radiation, right? So if you were to go down the aisles where you can buy vegetables and meats and eggs and dairy, the Geiger counter is silent. When you start going down the processed food aisle, that's where you start hearing it go crazy, because those things are going to cause radiation in your body. They are going to cause free radicals to form in your body. Sorry, not radiation, but it's the same kind of damage. When you get a radiation burn, you literally can see, it looks like a sunburn on the surface. But because radiation penetrates deeply, it's also damaging all of your organs. Well, vegetable oils damage you from the inside out. They enter your body through your intestine, and many, many, many people who suffer from heartburn or gastritis or serious esophageal problems, when they get off seed oils, that all melts away.
I want to touch in on, thinking of the radiation and the free radicals, there's a specific scene in the film that really just made me kind of go, holy cannoli. And it was you comparing French fries to cigarettes. And the reason I think this is so, I don't know, on point is because how many kids love I love fries, French fries and Frosties every day, man. I mean, not really, I wouldn't have them every day, but I love them. And that just absolutely shocked me. So am I correctly understanding that's kind of similar to what we're talking about, right? Like that, can you unpack where that overlap is?
So first of all, French fries are the most fattening food. We know this. French fries are the most fattening food. They're probably the most unhealthy, one of the most unhealthy foods. And unfortunately, potatoes are mostly going into French fries, and potatoes are the most commonly consumed vegetable. So we're getting most of our vegetables in the form of French fries. And that quote is actually from the quote where I compare the toxicity of a serving of French fries to the toxicity of smoking an entire pack of cigarettes. Yeah. That is science-based. That is based on research by a man named Martin Grutfeld, who studies these free radicals that form in our food. They're short-lived kinds of things. The toxins that form in French fries are so numerous. There's multiple different kinds. And unless you study this one particular kind that he studies, you wouldn't know that these are the same exact toxins in your French fries as you get from smoking cigarettes. They're called alpha beta unsaturated aldehydes, and they don't last very long. They're very toxic, and so they react quickly with your body's cells and tissues and destroy the enzymes of your cells, destroy the cell membranes. They're that dangerous. Like the more dangerous a toxin is, the harder it is to actually measure. So this man who did this research, he actually made the comparison about 10 years ago. So this is not a social media like myth. This is hard science from a very well-respected researcher who's world-renowned and has 200 or more publications to his name. Wow. This is real.
Yeah. And I have to just anecdotally say, and I would encourage pretty much anyone watching this to think about it yourself. I can imagine you have had a time where, we have our splurge, right? Or whatever, our cheat day. And I'm just going to have this anyway. And your body tells you, your body responds. You feel that, the drain, the brain fog, the lack of energy, just ickiness in your body, but we just kind of brush it off. I always brushed it off just as, whatever. I know I shouldn't really eat it, but I'm sure it'll be fine. Now, when I look at ordering French fries on the menu, I feel like I'm about to poison myself. It really gives me pause. I will say.
This is why RFK has been talking about tallow fries and making tallow great again and stuff like that, because that is what McDonald's fries were cooked in until around 1990. And I can tell you, they were delicious. They were so good. I would literally eat them until I threw up, because they were so much different than they are now. So if we do go back, like, it would be a great thing one thing people tell me often is that they don't notice quite as like powerfully how bad they feel after eating fries or chips or any kind of other kind of junk food until they've quit for a couple of weeks. And then when they go back to it, they're like, oh my God, I feel horrible. And that is, for many people, that is the wake-up call that they needed to really make the big changes sustainable and to do the thing of looking for a restaurant. If you live in a big city, it's getting easier and easier now to find a restaurant that doesn't cook in any of the hateful eight oils. So that's the upside. And I think that a lot of that is, well, I mean, I have to say, I am the mother of the no seed oil movement, but MAHA is, you know, really driving this because there are MAHA moms, right? You guys are Moms for Liberty. Well, there's this whole group, MAHA moms, and they are so influential and so powerful. And I am so grateful for what they are doing because they are really changing the food supply for the better. They're working really hard.
It is so encouraging. And that actually leads me to the next thing I wanted to talk about, because the film can be, just like we talked about, it can, or as mentioned in the very beginning, it can be a little bit sad to realize just how much how many lies we have been fed, quite frankly, over the years on these different things. But you just touched on that there, that we're starting to see restaurants offer more healthier options thanks to this public awareness, which is fantastic. So I'd love for you to maybe highlight, you know, for parents, and that's why I talked about French fries, by the way, because kids love French fries. Every kid that I know loves French fries. So I want parents to be thinking about this for their kids. So what would you recommend for parents who want to protect their kids? What are some first practical steps they could do at home to try to help protect their kids with good food?
I mean, I think really the first thing is to just get a handle on the situation, assess the situation, because you will be shocked. Like, people tell me this all the time. Like, I didn't know, you know, a lot of people's favorite condiment, well, actually America's most popular condiment, is mayo. Almost all of it is seed oils. Now they are selling seed oil-free mayo.
Wow.
Yes.
That's awesome.
And so America's most popular salad dressing is ranch dressing made with mayo. So if you want to make ranch dressing, but not have it be like you're feeding your kids cigarette smoke, you can get Hidden Valley ranch dressing and these better, Hidden Valley ranch seasoning mix. And then just put it together with mayo. And I think you need like either yogurt or sour cream. There's different recipes. But you can make your own ranch dressing and you will save money doing it, because dressing is such a ripoff. I mean, like the first ingredient in so many dressings is water.
Yeah.
So like that is just one of the many examples of when you start learning what you've been doing. But the first step is really learning. You got to step back and say, what am I eating? And that starts with something very simple. When you go home, like go to your kitchen right now after you're done with watching the movie, you got to watch the film and listen to Jeff Hayes talk about it. And then, okay, it'll be late. So tomorrow morning, go to your cabinets and start turning everything with an ingredients list around. It's going to be in your fridge too. It's going to be in things that, you know, have healthy organic labels on them, right? I don't know how many times I've seen moms feeding their kids the goldfish as like a snack when they're trying to, you know, at the doctor's office, they have these little goldfish crackers. They're in those. They're in Triscuits. They're in veggie chips. They're in a lot of tuna fish. They're in dehydrated fruit. They're in you know, dried blueberries, dried cranberries. They're in so many things that you got to see so that you can understand how powerfully these things have been affecting your health, because they are toxin delivery vehicles. And so if you want to, this is why I say in the film, at least I hope it's in the film, that if you just want to take a deep breath after you watch the film, because it might make you a little panicky, the most empowering thing is to know where to start. And my message has for many years been, the most important thing is to start paying attention to these seed oils. If you can turn the package around, you can turn your health around, because it starts with turning the package around and reading the ingredients.
That is a powerful statement. Turn the package around to turn your health around. That, don't just take it at face value. That is so true. It is in the film. I remember in particular, there was a restaurant they were talking about that they removed dried cranberries because they could not find any dried cranberries that didn't have seed oils, which
Good for them.
Just completely boggled my mind. I would not have thought dried cranberries would have had seed oils on it. That was just such a surprise. So, okay, we have had an incredible conversation. I know we're getting near to the end, and I don't want to hold anything up so people can. I'm going to remind everyone, go register, RSVP. It's free to RSVP or register at M4LAcademy.org so you can join us in the watch party. Before we jump over to that, though, any final thoughts, anything that maybe we didn't get a chance to cover yet? And then, of course, don't forget to say where people can find you.
Oh, yes, absolutely. So I'll say that first because I'll forget, because I get so hot about this thing I want to talk about. So please come to my website, which is drcate.com, drcate.com. And you could take the Hateful Eight challenge. That will be a great way to prove to yourself that you can live 8 days without seed oils and then see how you feel. So what I want to talk about, and I hope that Moms for Liberty are going to find this particularly interesting and important. And this has to do with how nutrition changes the way we look. There was a man named Dr. Weston Price who over 100 years ago discovered that. He discovered that when people were eating their traditional foods, that they were self-sufficiently produced, no processed foods. They didn't call them processed foods back then. He called them foods of modern convenience. I love the way this guy wrote. And that was basically, artificial fats, the vegetable oils, and refined flours and refined sugars. When people started eating those, then their children would not look the same. It would change the shape of their face. It would reduce the height of their cheekbones. It would make their teeth crooked. And why does this matter, especially for Moms for Liberty? Because it shows that nutrition can change the way we develop. And in my first book, Deep Nutrition, this one here with the blue cover, I talk about something called sexual dimorphism. What does that mean, sexual dimorphism? That means men look different than women. And when our diets are healthy, we have ideal sexual dimorphism. But when they are not, we lose that and we turn towards the monomorphic look. What is that? Where men kind of look a little bit more effeminate than they should. They never go through the proper development during puberty. And so they look a little more frail. And with women, we don't get quite as curvaceous as we're supposed to. And we don't have like maybe the full luscious lips that women are like to have.
Try to now.
Yeah. We don't have, our eyebrows aren't quite as like shapely as the movie stars' eyebrows. Like Ingrid Bergman has just beautiful eyebrows, and men, they don't have the strong brow ridges. And so what I'm saying is that there is a real biological component to what's going on with our children, and where they're questioning, am I a man or a woman? It certainly is definitely, there's this issue of contagion and the social construct, the social contagion, I guess, of it, where it's kind of almost become a trend to question it. But what I'm saying is that there's a lot of reason to believe that it's also biologically driven. And I think we should be discussing this. If we care about our children, we need to at least start considering this. And I've opened the conversation with my book, Deep Nutrition. And, I would love to continue it, because I think that it's very, very important. It's very difficult. Puberty is hard enough, right? It's hard enough. But if you are not developing the way you see the people you know, in the movies developer, the models, the people that you admire, the sports, your sports icons. Because believe me, the men look like men in sports, or they wouldn't be a sports icon, right? LeBron James, he looks like a man. Kobe Bryant, he looked like a man. Michael Jordan. So, so this is puberty. If you're going through puberty and you're not developing the way that you kind of expect, it's depressing. I mean, I know it happened to me. I do not have that like long, slender waist. I have kind of a box figure. It was very, very depressing. But if you couple that feeling of kind of like, when is this going to happen to me, with the trend of, well, maybe you're not a girl, maybe you're actually a boy, or vice versa, you can start to see how compelling that idea is.
That is so fascinating, and I would be really interested to see some. Well, there's so many things that I'd love the government or other institutions to do some studies on, because I think it's very fair to say at this point we are now seeing unintended consequences from all sorts of things that you know, we were sold a lie that this was totally fine. There was going to be no problems. I think that's a really interesting point, because I grew up in very much in the generation. Well, I think we all do, you know, but as a teenager, I definitely was comparing myself to going through puberty to the girls that I saw in magazines and on TV, and, you know, not even really realizing that they were totally airbrushed and all of that. But even before that, you do get a certain look in your head and of what you ought to look like. And so I think it does become much easier for these insidious thoughts to get, and messages to get through and find a seed and or for that seed to be planted and take root, when you have an environment that makes it more fertile, I guess.
And this is why the idea of a calorie being a calorie is so dangerous, because it discourages you from even asking these kinds of questions.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's like, it is shutting down the conversation. It's a lot like in Wizard of Oz, where they're like, you know, Dorothy is in, you know, she's finally made it to the castle in Oz in there. And she's, there's all this display and fireworks going off, and she sees this man behind the curtain. They don't want us to see the man behind the curtain, because then we would understand that what we've been eating is junk food marketed as health food, and that so many of these conditions that we take pharmaceuticals for life to treat are actually reversible just by eating better food. And that's why I say there's so much money riding on this.
Yep. Yeah. I just really want to encourage everyone to go and register so that you can get a sneak peek to watch this film, because Dr. Cate has so much good information that she shares in here. And I just want to thank you again for coming on. It was an absolute joy to talk to you. I absolutely love your book, obviously. And I haven't read Deep Nutrition, but I'm excited to read it, because I know I'm going to get all sorts of good tidbits from it. So thank you so much. We will make sure to link to everything in our description and show notes so that people can find you.
Thank you so much, Missy. This has just been I think it's so important. And I'm so glad that your organization exists, so that you can, you know, take charge. You are a take charge organization.
And highlight amazing people that are doing amazing work.
Well, thank you.
All right. Well, thank you again. All right, everybody, now's the time. We've had an amazing conversation talking about some of the sort of more hidden things in our food. If you didn't know about seed oils, oh my gosh, please go get this book. It's absolutely fascinating. Again, it's very easy read. It's really a lot of other interesting history that is just good to know as well. How the American Heart Association was totally bamboozled. Yes, it plays into propaganda. I will go so far as saying that. Thanks to an incredibly good marketer named Edward Bernays. Telling you, you want to go check this out. But in the meantime, head over to m4lacademy.org, register for the watch party so you can join us in just about 10 minutes as we're going to kick off. You'll get your password and your confirmation, and I'll send out one more for you as well. That's going to be on Vimeo that you can join us. And then afterwards, come back, or, go put the kids to bed or grab a glass of wine or whatever, as long as there's no seed oils in it. And come join us for the live stream at 10 p.m. Eastern with the director, Jeff Hayes. He's going to be joining us for a bonus live stream afterwards. So this has been our incredible first feature film Q&A with the amazing Dr. Cate Shanahan. And stay tuned for some other great topics that we'll be covering later this year. And of course, in the month of September, we're focused on MAHA. But in the meantime, I'll wrap it up to say that, as James Madison always said, the advancement and diffusion of knowledge is the only true guardian of liberty, which of course is the mission of M4L Academy. Okay, let's head on over to the watch party. You do not want to miss this.